making big freaking sideboards. So I got a walnut sideboard behind me, and I don't know, you can't really see it, but it's just getting ready to get glued up. So we got all the panels made, did all the mid panels, we got the end panels over here, and we have all of the framing panels, right? The guts of like legit furniture and good quality furniture is always going to have frame and panel construction. It's not going to have a lot of this kind of IKEA, cheap little runners everywhere. Like, it's not going to have any of that. So anyway, if you want to differentiate yourself from being a legit furniture maker versus, kind of a cheapy furniture maker, you'd have frame panel construction. It's one of the go-tos I use it to sell furniture to people all the time. It's just, I do lots of videos on how to make furniture in kind of the traditional fashion. So anyway, talk for today is the disposable economy is dying, and that is a good thing. Like, I am so excited that the disposable economy is going to basically take a nosedive, right? And that's one of the benefits of having cheap shit coming into America be super expensive, right? Because the truth is if people have to be a little more cautious with their dollars, a little more choosy about what they choose to buy, they're not going to buy garbage. And that's things like we here in America, we just love buying stuff. And the rest of the world is kind of understanding this, right? They're seeing that America basically just loves to buy shit. We just love to buy anything. If you sell it, we will buy it, right? It's like that movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. It's like, if you sell it, we will buy it. So anyway, my name is Eric Wilkin. I own the Resplendent Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a furniture company and a paint company, and we manufacture and paint about 500 pieces a year. We do a small 7 figures. We got 7 employees, most of whom have been with us for, I think, like 4 to 5 years at the minimum. So quite a long time. People seem to really like working in this space, making furniture, putting furniture together, painting furniture, sanding furniture, delivering furniture. I mean, this is kind of what we do. And anyway, it's good business. And I do these talks about whatever's going on in the economy and how it kind of relates to business, the business of furniture, the business of painting. And I'll get my thoughts on things, from time to time as well. But the idea is just to let people know what a real furniture company is like. Every Friday, we show people what's in the shop, and I try and show people kind of what I'm building, what things went well, what things, are going crappy, and just kind of give people the kind of honest assessment of what it's like to run a furniture company. I let people ask questions, and I answer questions, and it's a good time. So anyway, the disposable economy is dying, all right? So I wrote down some things. A lot of people don't know this, but our company was founded on the website Etsy, and I talk about these. There's a lot of websites today that kind of started this whole internet selling thing, right? The idea of having an online business as opposed to a brick and mortar business, right? Which is kind of your traditional form of business. We started our business on Etsy, and truth is that as the platform of Etsy started to grow, they didn't want businesses like ours selling our wares on Etsy anymore. And so they basically caused us to have to leave that website. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit. There's a couple of websites that, again, started this kind of craze of selling things, right? Of giving normies a platform to sell their goods on, right? If you want to be a small business owner, you didn't have to go buy a retail location. You have to go rent a manufacturing facility. You could make stuff in your garage, and literally, you can make stuff in your garage and sell it online. So we got Mimi here. Mimi, hello, good to see you. Thanks for coming in and talking. We're going to talk about the disposable economy and how that's kind of going away a little bit because of the increased cost of everything. As the cost of cheap shit gets more expensive, people want to buy quality, right? And we're going to talk about that. But I'm starting off the conversation talking about how we started the Resplendent Crow, which is we literally started this company on Etsy. And truth is that these websites that kind of started the idea of people being able to start businesses in their garage and turn them into much larger businesses, right? Go from a sole proprietorship to an S corp, right? Something like that, or getting out of your garage, giving you the platform to sell your good, and then get you into your own workshop, your own factory, your own manufacturing spot, whatever that might be. These websites were fantastic at doing that. And what's happened is those websites, they all kind of sold out a little bit, and not 100%, but in certain kinds of ways. I'll talk about that in a second. But the truth is that when we got rid of the stuff called de minimis, right, there was something called the de minimis exemption, which basically allowed tons of cheap crap to come in from foreign countries, and it could be sold all over the place, right? And a lot of it could even be sold as handmade, you know, because it's made with slave labor over in other countries. And so anyway, by getting rid of that, increasing tariffs and things like that on certain kinds of products, it's made that cheap garbage much more expensive. And now people like you and I, if we wanted to start something in our garage, like if I had to do this thing all over again, it's a little bit easier for people to do that. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today. I don't know if it's a good topic for people, but that's what we're going to talk about. So if you're in the conversation, hit the like button. Let me know where you're at. And let me know what you do, and I don't know what people are doing. So who we got? We got Remy in here. Remy Farley, good to see you. Yeah, add to the discussion if you can, and we'll talk about this. So we started this business, the Resplendent Crow, literally in a 1.5 car garage in Creve Coeur, Missouri, which is just in here in St. Louis. And we started selling our products on Etsy. And truth is that we were selling, you know, $700-800 dressers that were painted, right? And then we moved that up to maybe it was more like $1,000 dressers. And then we figured out the shipping side of things, how to ship furniture, right? Which is very difficult. So we figured that side out. And then eventually we're selling stuff on Etsy. You know, we're selling, like I said, $1,000 dressers, and then we're upcharging, you know, whatever, $500 to ship something to wherever, you know, Wyoming, New York, wherever it might be. And those places, people would go to Etsy specifically to find products like ours, a vintage piece of furniture that's painted. And painting furniture has always been really popular. But truth is that that company, Etsy, started to allow other kinds of products onto their website, right? So it used to be on Etsy to find handmade stuff that was, you know, a lot of times vintage. Maybe someone was making t-shirts in their garage, like whatever, to where they started allowing things like drop shipping. They started to allow products from overseas to come in and be sold on Etsy's website. And it basically flooded that website with a bunch of garbage. And so it became much more difficult to get visibility on your product. And that's still how it is today. And truth is that we ended up leaving Etsy because it just became too difficult to sell your product on there. They wanted you to always have free shipping. They kind of favored specific kinds of businesses. They wanted you to have tracking with your shipping. And as a company that literally pays our own shippers, like we pay them on salary. These aren't people that we're not doing this third party. We don't provide tracking because we provide a telephone number. Like you can literally call our shipper while he's en route to your house. But because most people can't do that, it made us not a very good fit for Etsy because they want all their sellers to basically be able to do the same thing. So we had to get off there. We created our own website, and it was the best thing we ever did, right? And I'll talk about that in another discussion. But other websites like eBay and Amazon, right? So Amazon, you know, it's very well known that Amazon was started selling books, right? And those books could have been, they were used books for colleges and stuff like that. And, you know, you had new books and all that stuff too. But the truth is that Amazon today is flooded with tons of cheap foreign-made garbage. You know, and it used to be a place where you could sell all kinds of high quality stuff. And now, you know, because they have to, you know, turn over revenue and they have to keep, you know, products coming into their business, that it's just turned into, it's too difficult to make money, right? Because you gotta, not only do you have to compete with cheap garbage coming in, disposable stuff, you have to pay Amazon a chunk of what you sell anyway. And it's very difficult to make money, right? So then you had eBay, right? Everyone remembers eBay when that one came out. And I had a business on eBay when eBay was first coming around. And truth is that that used to be a great place to find used like car parts and stuff like that. Like if you were in the car scene early on when eBay came around, it was like the Shangri-La of places to find cool new old stock car parts. I mean, you could find just all kinds of cool stuff, vintage clothes, you know, again, like new old stock movie posters and things like that. And all that stuff is still there. But every single product category today is just flooded with Chinese garbage. And we all know, and everyone's seen it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that it's so difficult to get visibility on your products because there's so much disposable junk for sale on all of these places. And it's made it very difficult, I think, to start a small business or to sell a product online, especially if you make something here in America, when you have to compete with all of this super cheap stuff coming in from abroad. Because the truth is, the only thing that matters anymore is cheap labor. I mean, that's really all it boils down to. And these large corporations, they love to say, no, the skilled labor is over. It's all skilled labor. Like they're all full of shit, you know, because truth is like, if I was going to sell one of my dressers, like say I was going to sell the sideboard that I have behind me, right? This sideboard I sold for like $8,800, okay? Truth is that the sideboard's probably going to take me about a week to build, right? So that's, call it 40 hours, right? 40 hours, and say I charge $50 an hour is my rate, right? Well, just for the sake of argument, we're going to say it's $2,000, right? Well, if you're charging $5 a day for labor over in Vietnam, right, like dirt cheap labor, you know, all that extra money, like I can't compete with that. There's just no way. There's no way I can compete with that. And that's kind of what we got going on. So as these tariffs and the elimination of this de minimis, getting rid of all this stuff, it makes it much more difficult for this cheap stuff to come in here. And the thing is, the funny thing is, like, I know everyone's done this. Like, you hit the like button if you've done this before, but have you ever been looking for something in your house and you're just like, man, I don't know where the hell I put this thing. And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to order it again because it's so cheap. I don't even care. You know, like, I don't know how many times I've been looking for something and I'm just like, the hell, I'm just going to order it on Amazon. And I just get on my Amazon app and I just order it because it's $5 or it's $10 or whatever. Like, it's just dirt cheap. It's more expensive to look around your house than it is to order your cheap Chinese stuff and have it shipped to your home, which is freaking insane. Like, it just blows my mind that that's a thing. But I mean, there's got to be people that have done that. I can't be the only person that will be looking for something, and if I can't find it, I just order it on Amazon anyway because it's so damn cheap. And I've done it on eBay. I've done it on, I mean, just name the website. Like, I've done it. I mean, you can go to Walmart.com. It's pretty good one actually. But yeah, it's wild. And so I think that as this cheap stuff becomes more expensive, people are going to start hanging on to things a little bit longer, which is ultimately what I want to see. And this is a personal view of mine. It's not, you know, no one has to agree with this, but I think that the idea that you can order something on the internet and it'll show up at your house next day and it's cheaper than if you were just to go spend an hour or two to go pick up that part, buy it at a store and bring it home, right? I think that is not good for society. And people will disagree with me. That's fine. I can talk about whatever I want. But anyway, I think that's a bad way to go about things. So anyway, I got a couple notes here. I'm going to go over my notes real quick. And then I got to get back to work because I'm got to build this massive freaking sideboard. I also got a Green Key China cabinet that I'm putting together. I'm working on the video. I've almost got the video. I'm starting to edit the video. But I got to do the part where I put everything back together. And that's what I'm doing right now. And then I should hopefully have that video up maybe next week. So anyway, I wrote down founders and artists had their ideas ripped off. Okay, one of the problems with having a race to the bottom, which is what we have here in America, right? And it's the reason America prospered so much back in the 40s and 50s is because we crushed the rest of the world, right? America was the only country left standing, so all the countries needed America to produce all their goods until they get their factories rebuilt. And we just had decades of prosperity because of that. Well, once we started outsourcing all the work, right, you notice that it was the rise of the white-collar worker, right? They took all the blue-collar jobs, they got rid of them all. Some of the blue-collar people, went to college and learned to code, and other ones, went in the service sector, and other people went on welfare, disability, the myriad of things happened, right? Fast forward to where we are now, and the truth is that we're running out of cheap labor. And what's happening is when you have a ton of cheap labor all over the world and everything's digital now, it's very easy for someone to take a product that I make and just recreate it in another country and then sell it back in here, back to America, right? It's almost too cheap. And so there's a lot of people, we can't compete with the rest of the world when it comes to making products because it's so easy to rip them off, right? So take the sideboard, right? So if I were to make the sideboard and sell it, and I'm selling those over the course of a year, well, if I get on Google and I do kind of a reverse image search, I'll probably be able to find this sideboard. Somebody else is going to be selling it. Well, come to find out that somebody else is selling it, but they're having it made in Egypt, which is very common. It's very common to have furniture made in Egypt. It's very common to have furniture made in Vietnam, right? And I know this because it's happened to me with my faux bamboo credenza. I make a break front faux bamboo credenza, and people started copying that, and I know exactly where it's made. It's made in Egypt, and it's complete horse shit, right? But truth is that when you have all that cheap labor, if somebody has the connections or has the wherewithal to create a drawing, create a cut list, get on some of these websites that specialize in manufacturing goods overseas, you can take an American product as long as it's not copyrighted and you can have it made over another country. Now, in the event that it is copyrighted, a lot of times it doesn't even matter Because what will happen is the company over in China will make that product, they'll give it to another company in China that will form an LLC, and then they will sell that product under that LLC back to America as their own product, right? And then me, I have no recourse because an American company cannot sue a company in a foreign country the way we can here in America. It's very difficult to do. So that's one of the problems with having super cheap products being able to be brought back into America, okay? So you initiate a 150% tariff on that product that is coming in from the foreign country, suddenly it's no longer advantageous to try and move that product into America, you know? So there's a lot of ripping off of ideas because of all this cheap labor, you know? So we have to find a way to compete with that. And the truth is, it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult, you know? I had this is a Nalgene water bottle. I think everyone's probably seen this at some point, you know, Americans drink a gallon of water a day or whatever the hell they say. These Nalgenes are made in the USA. It says it right on there, okay? Made in the USA. This thing was like, I want to say it was like 20 bucks. I bought it at Target a couple of years ago. That same water bottle made of the same PPE plastic, whatever the hell that plastic is probably $2. You know, hell, it might even be 99 cents. The amount of the cost that these foreign countries can make stuff for, it is impossible for Americans to compete. It's literally impossible unless you have a design that cannot be replicated or you have some kind of tort protection. We're fucked. Like, just that's the only way to put it. I mean, there's no way to compete, you know. And as a furniture maker, I've seen this happen. It's happened to me, and it's one of these things that we have to find a way as a country to compete with the other countries. And the best way to do it is to have tort law, right? Which is why we're doing this tariff thing we have going on here. Like, we're trying so hard to make it so other companies can't just rip off our stuff, which again it's very common, guys. It's so common. Another thing I wrote down is large corporations buy IP and they outsource production. This is another big problem that we have today. So what you'll have is a large corporation will come in. They'll buy a smaller corporation, which is great for the small corporation. Don't get me wrong. But the truth is that the way that they what's the word I'm looking for here? The way that they convince their investors that it's a good investment, right? Or they get their investors what they want, which is money. They have to outsource the work. It's the only way. Because the truth is that a lot of these corporations, they're not creating anything. They're not innovating. Like, their innovation is to get your job that pays you $25 an hour plus benefits to somebody over in another country who gets paid $5 a day with no benefits, right? Like, that's their great innovation. That's their great contribution to America, right? And in return, you get a cheap whatever, right? You get this cheap water bottle for $5 instead of paying. You know, that's their great contribution to society, right? But you have to work for one of these corporations because you can't actually afford to make your own product and sell it yourself because all the corporations are just waiting to buy up everything and send it overseas, right? So I wrote that down. That's a real problem. We have to do something about these large corporations just continuously buying up IP. I mean, Disney is a fantastic example of the purchasing of IP and essentially wrecking it. You know, it's a perfect example. Like, they wrecked Star Wars, they wrecked the Marvel movies. I mean, I'm a lifelong comic book collector. I've got thousands of comic books. I love comic books. And what what Disney has done to Marvel is just disgusting. Like, they've just ruined it. They've absolutely ruined this great thing about my childhood. And it's a big problem. So anyway, that's a side note. Yes, Eric likes comic books as well as Blue Moon beer and making furniture. These are like the three loves of my life. My favorite comic book character is Blade. I have waited years for Blade to come out, and frickin' Marvel ruined the idea of getting Blade to come out in the Marvel universe. They brought him in with that Mahershala Ali, who nobody cares about, right? They brought him into that stupid Eternals movie, and they had him give a line out, you know, at the very end of the movie. I think it was one of the extra scenes at the very end, right? And then they realized, oh yeah, nobody cares about this guy. And then they gave it back to Wesley Snipes, who's literally the embodiment of Blade. I mean, the perfect Blade. Gave it back to him, and I still haven't even seen the Deadpool that he's in, which is how committed I am to this. But apparently, he's freaking awesome. Like, now everybody wants wants Wesley Snipes to come back as Blade, even if he has to be old man Blade, like nobody cares. So yeah, Blade was always my favorite character. I just loved Wesley Snipes. And during the pandemic, I was buying up copies of Tomb of Dracula 10. Like, I would buy these things up and then I'd resell them. I'd buy one for like $1,000. I'd sell it for $1,200, and I'd buy a better copy for like $1,500 and sell it for $2,000. And it was so much fun. I had so much fun during that time buying and selling comic books. But anyway, that's enough about that. But anyway, large companies are buying up tons of IP, and they're just outsourcing it. That's all they're doing. They're farming it out. And one more point about Marvel, what Marvel did what Disney did that really destroyed Marvel is they tried to make the comic books hyper palatable, right? And this is a massive problem with what's happened to American culture today, right? So these large corporations, because they want to sell their products to everybody, they basically take the great thing about being an American, the experience of America and Americans, and they just dumb it down, right? They homogenize it, and this is why they try and put all these Marvel movies over in China, is because they want that money, right? It's not enough to get all the money in America, which is where all the money is made, right? But they want that big market over there, so they don't say certain kinds of things, and they don't pronounce things certain ways, and they don't have certain kinds of themes and elements in their movies because it will offend other cultures. So anyway, this is one of the things I don't like about these large corporations buying up stuff. They cheapen everything, right? This goes back to this whole, these cheap products, they're going away. And when you cheapen movies, when you cheapen our culture, all the stuff is going away, and I think it's a fantastic thing. So anyway, another thing I wrote down, let's see, Americans are forced to race to the bottom in order to compete. This is another thing this is what happens when you allow tons of cheap products into your country, right? It's one thing if you take that cheap product and then you make something of value with it. But the problem is that we don't, and it's just patently obvious. I mean, most of the generations that we have coming up, they don't want to do anything, because they haven't experienced anything, right? They've lived in a world of the internet, and they've lived in a world where everything's digital. They don't even know what it's like to really do something, right? To really go out and make something, to really create something that is all your own. It's always something that's digital, and this is a big problem, and I don't know what to do with that. But the truth is that we have to, if you actually want to make something in America, you have to compete with every other country in the world. And when they're charging $5 a day, right, when you need to make $25 an hour, there's no way for you to make a product here and have any kind of a living, right? Which is again, it's one of those things that I don't necessarily have the answer to, but I'm not afraid of the tariffs. I'm not afraid of this idea of raising the price on cheap shit. So who else we got in here? Okay, someone else came in. Hello, fella. This is Il Donek. Anyway, glad you're here, guys. Hit the like button, add a discussion, say hi, all those kind of things. We're just talking about the cheap stuff is getting ready to go the way of the dodo due to tariffs, right? And due to this de minimis being gotten rid of, okay? It means that all your cheap garbage coming in from these other countries, you're not going to be able to buy it for $10 anymore. It's going to be $30 now, or it's going to be $20. And that's going to cause people to reevaluate what it is that they buy every day, right? It's going to cause people to think, well, maybe I can make that product myself, or maybe I can buy it used, or maybe it'll just cause you to think about all kinds of things. Maybe I don't really need that bad. Maybe I'm going to put that money in my bank account and save it for a rainy day, or use it to pay off some debt instead. And I think it's scary to a lot of people, but in my way of thinking, I think it's great. I think that we just waste so much money as a culture, it's not even funny, and that's fine. It gives people jobs. But the kind of stuff that we're buying, I don't know how great that stuff is. So anyway, let's see. I talked about the Resplendent Crow was founded on Etsy. I wrote that down. I wrote Etsy, eBay, Amazon became a race to the bottom, cheap Chinese knockoffs. Yeah, so what I was saying earlier in my talk was, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, all these places started off as places to get really cool stuff. I mean, it was awesome. Like I said, you could buy awesome car parts on eBay when it was first around. I mean, I remember buying like aquarium equipment that was really cool. You could buy, Amazon was founded on books. I mean, Amazon used to be a place where you could go buy like televisions and all kinds of cool stuff. And then what was the last one? Etsy. Yeah, Etsy. So my company was founded on Etsy. It was a cool place you could buy vintage stuff. And the idea was that you were making handmade stuff, like legit handmade stuff. And by Etsy's standard now, I mean, Nike tennis shoes are considered handmade because they're made by slaves, in the Philippines. So it's kind of a weird, it's weird what's happened to all of these platforms, or I guess they're called marketplaces, but it's weird what's happened to all these platforms. They've all basically sold out to all this cheap Chinese stuff, which has made it very hard for you to get traction as a maker. And it's hard to put your product on Etsy when you have to compete with a bunch of cheap junk coming in, or say somebody, I mean, I would even extend so far as to say like the t-shirt makers, right? I don't know how many people make their t-shirts, but they're not making a t-shirt, right? And I'm not even talking about making the fabric and creating a t-shirt. I'm talking about the design. Nobody has a screen printer. These people don't have screen printers. They're literally having their design made someplace else onto a t-shirt, and then they're selling that t-shirt, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem for me personally as a furniture maker is that I really make furniture. No, I don't make plywood, but I take all the plywood and I put that furniture together, right? I cut out all the parts, I paint it, I deliver it. There's a lot that goes into making a piece of furniture. One of my good friends owns a screen printing company. He probably does 1 million t-shirts a year. I mean, he's legit, okay? That's a real business, right? The guy coming up with a design on AI and then having someone in China make it for him and then bring it over here to America and trying to sell them for 30 bucks. Like, fuck that guy. Like, I'm sorry. I'm tired of these people. This is not what America's about. This is literally the problem. These woodworkers on YouTube that I'm always bitching about, they have all their coffee mugs. They sell coffee mugs. There's no furniture on their websites. They don't make furniture for you or anybody else, but they'll sell you a coffee mug that's made in China, right? Which all coffee mugs are made in China, right? Unless you're really, really resourceful, you'll know that the best coffee mugs are actually made in Italy. Look that one up. But you're not going to buy coffee cups from Italy, right? I'll tell this. I'll tell you guys a quick story. So everyone knows I was in the private jet industry for 20 years. And I remember one time I was looking at these, I was refurbing, I don't remember what it was. I think it was a Dassault. It was, it might've been a Falcon or something like that. But anyway, point is I was taking apart this galley, right? And in the galley, there's stemware and there's forks and knives and plates and cups and just all the stuff, linens, all kinds of things. And you got to take all that stuff out. We catalog it. And when we refurb the furniture, we put it all back together, we put everything back in, and we take photos and videos. And anyway, it's a process. But anyway, I'm pulling out these plates, right? And it's like, these are like, I don't know what the hell you call the small plates, saucers. They're dinner plate and then the smaller plate, whatever the hell that one's called. Anyway, I'm looking at these things, and they just had these like crazy little decorative like mosaic designs. I mean, really beautiful, like exceptionally beautiful. Like, I'm a man, I don't really give a shit about any of that stuff, but even I was like, wow, like somebody really took the time to make that, whatever that design was, right? And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I sent her a picture. I'm like, man, look at how cool these are. We should get some of these. These are amazing. And she sends me back. She's like, holy shit, honey, do you know what those are? And I'm like, yeah, they're beautiful, saucer dishes or whatever they are. And she's like, no, those are Hermes plates. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the hell that even means, Hermes, and turns out Hermes is the company that makes Birkin bags, right? Hermes is this like 150-year-old company that's known for making equestrian stuff, makes obscenely expensive handbags for rich chicks. Well, they also make all kinds of other stuff that's insanely expensive. So every one of these little saucer plates was like $300 a piece, right? And there's like an entire set of this shit. I mean, there's probably like $20,000 worth of whatever you call it, eating stuff. And it's wild, okay, guys? So there's all kinds of amazing things that are made all over the world. Truth is we just can't afford them. Even though we're the richest country in the world, we won't pay $30 for a plate, right? We'll pay $30 for an entire set that's made in China, and they'll call it bone China because some slave over there made it, right? But we won't pay $30 a plate because our values are very different, right? It's not better or worse, it's just different, So we got to kind of rethink what we pay for things, because truth is, and people won't like this analogy, but I'll say it anyway. When we were going through the Civil War, like people were freaking out about the idea of the slaves no longer being around or being free for the cotton industry, right? And the cotton industry was one of the largest industries in America at the time, right? Everyone lost their minds, like, oh, we can't free these slaves. Who's going to pick our cotton, right? Like, we can't be expected to pick cotton ourselves. What you want us to make the cotton ourselves? Like, what? This is crazy. Like, we can't do this, okay? We are doing the same exact thing when we buy this cheap shit from over in China. It's the same exact thing. It's so cheap. These people work 10, 12 hours a day, and they work for next to nothing. They have no OSHA, no EPA, no rights in the business place. They have none of this shit. And all these virtuous fucks constantly harp on about the minimum wage and the EPA here in America while wearing all of this shit. So this is one of my big pet peeves as a business owner and as someone who works 60, 70 hours a week making furniture. Like, I could work less and I could probably make more money working for somebody else who's figured all this stuff out, but I like this. I don't mind working hard. Like, we forgot what it means to work hard here. And I'm not going to go on a tirade here, but truth is that this cheap Chinese shit and this cheap shit from overseas is getting more expensive, and that's a good thing, right? Like, you're going to have to fix things. You're going to have to, actually look for stuff. You're going to have to think about things before you throw them away because it's going to be very expensive. I'll tell you guys one last quick story about the Great Depression that always stuck with me for my great-grandmother, and it was Grandma, oh my gosh, Grandma Lillabo, I think was her name. That's how long this was. And anyway, so the story goes like this. She would always give me shit about not finishing all my food, right? And she would always give me shit about not eating all the cookies that she would make for me. And she was kind of a harpy like that, about not wasting things, right? And I never understood it as a kid, right? And as I got a little bit older, one of the stories she would tell me is she would tell me that what they used to do is back in the Great Depression, they would get potatoes, right? Potatoes were, fairly cheap, and that was kind of what they could afford. Well, anyway, these potatoes would come in these big burlap bags. And these big burlap bags, we've all seen them before. It's not, they still use them today, to be quite honest with you, if you've ever stocked produce. Truth is that these burlap bags, they wouldn't waste the stuff, right? So they'd empty the potatoes out, they'd eat potatoes, they'd save the burlap bags. And what they would do is that her and her mother would make dresses out of these old potato sacks. And that's, the story is important because this is what that generation went through. And this is where we're getting ready to go if we don't figure this thing out. We are such a wasteful and decadent culture now. I know we don't see it. It's not a dig on anyone. Like, I'm as wasteful. I buy the same shit as anybody else. But the truth is that her message and what she was trying to tell me about being wasteful, it really hit home with me the older that I got, because that's how hard it was for these people. Like, they couldn't afford anything. Money was in short supply. Food was in short supply. So absolutely anything that these people had, they would not waste anything. They would find ways to use absolutely everything. And I always thought that was interesting. Like, they made dresses and clothes out of the burlap potato sacks. And I'm sure everyone has their own kind of story. We've all heard those kind of things before, but that's like a real story from a real person. And I've never forgotten it. Like, it's always stuck with me. And I remember to this day. And this woman the funny thing about her is she would always make us these potato chips, these chocolate chip cookies, right? And she would make them. She lived in Coos Bay, Oregon, and she would make these things in Coos Bay, Oregon, and she'd come stay with us for like a month, and she would cook these things there, but she would cook them like a week before she was coming, right? And she put them in these old tins, and these, again, this is back to that saving thing. I don't know if people remember, we used to get these little tins of shortbread cookies, right? They'd come in the little cups, and they'd kind of be stacked together, and she'd save these tins because they were made of metal, and you could save that stuff forever. Anyway, she'd put these cookies in there, she'd wrap them in aluminum foil, and by the time they got to us, this would be like a week later, they would just be hard as freaking rocks. Like, it would be like trying to eat. You can imagine. We know how to. We're used to having the perfect, soft, kind of amazing cookies, and we all know when we go to the grocery store, Publix, Schnucks, Dillard's, wherever you go, Dillon's, they're amazing, right? But when these cookies would show up, that's how it was. And I remember that my mom she'd tell us, you better eat every fucking one of those cookies because your grandma has went through some shit. And she would just, this is how grandma is, and this is why grandma this way. And as a kid, you don't really understand this stuff. You just know, like, oh, great, I got to eat grandma's shitty cookies again. And truth is that mom knew what she went through. Mom understood it, and as I got older, I understood it. And anyway, I think these are great stories. They're very important to me. They're kind of personal stories to me, and I've never forgotten them. And truth is that that's kind of where we're going to go. I think if we don't figure out this appreciating stuff like we used to. Like I said, we love cheap stuff here. We don't seem to appreciate what it means to create something, to make things here in America. It's so easy just to buy it on Amazon, Etsy, wherever, and just have it shipped in. So it's a very different way to live. So anyway, I think it's the end of my talk today. It's Saturday. So tomorrow I'll show you guys this this Greek China cabinet that I'm working on. It's kind of cool. It's lots of glass. It's beautiful, got beautiful fretwork in it. I think I've shown them before, but that's part of running a company, running a furniture business versus seeing something on YouTube, right? We have to make a lot of the same things over and over again. It's our bread and butter to make the same products, and it might not be as entertaining as watching someone make some stupid whiskey table or something, but this is the furniture game. That's how it really works. So anyway, everyone, a fantastic weekend, and I will yak at you all.